us right now, Gaurav Vangaal, Associate Director at S&P Global Mobility. We'll also have Hormazd Sorabjee, Editor, Autocar India, joining us just shortly. And we also have with us Giridhar, Secretary at FADA, joining in on the show right now. Gentlemen, all of you, great to have you on the show. Gaurav, if I could just start off the discussion with you firstly, two big mega IPOs lined up. If you can tell us, what exactly is the kind of, buzz around these two names? Because they're definitely heavyweights in some sense. I can surely say that about Hyundai.
Yeah, definitely. If we see in the current state, today global world is going through a disruption, and this disruption is bringing a transformation towards electrification. And we are seeing that every car maker globally is looking for the fresh investments so that they can keep their market share intact, or they can gain their market share in the near future. So for that, I think they need investments, and for the investment, I think if we talk about India market, we are, as per the S&P Global Mobility, we are expect that India market should go by 22% EV penetration by 2030. And for that, I think Hyundai is still lacking the clear investment roadmap in Indian market, while Tata Mahindra is already very aggressive into the EV market. So I think this is what is driving Hyundai, and they should bring a new fresh investments, new products, new platforms to the Indian market. And India's growth story is somehow different when we talk about electrification. Our consumers are more complex. Our consumers are more demanding. So they definitely need a fresh investment and towards the local environment. And this is going to help the total overall EV ecosystem as of now.
Right. Sai, if I could get you in on the discussion as well. If we see both of these IPOs which are in the offing, they're both leaders in their respective segments, right? I mean, Ola is the market leader when it comes to two-wheeler EVs. Hyundai, the second biggest passenger vehicle maker in terms of market share. Given the increasing competition and given how incumbents within the listed entities so far as well in that entire pool are already sort of bucking up on the trend. What is the expectation on the kind of market share we could see from an Ola Electric and from a Hyundai in the next 2 to 3 years?
Hi, thank you for having me for today. See, we've often seen IPOs signaling growth and stability, and positive customer sentiment around these companies could lead to increased footfalls and sales, especially for the Hyundai dealers. With the influx of capital, both companies are likely to invest in new technologies and expand their product portfolio. This could lead to introduction of new models and technologies, providing new options for dealers in case of Hyundai and customers alike. And we've seen that financial strength gives more flexibility to these companies, and I'm sure it will help the companies to increase their market presence. Probably, I'd just like to make one point over here for the dealers, especially for Hyundai, that we probably need to gear up to face the challenges. We need to make the strategies now so that we could probably be with the brand, align with the brand, and grow with the brand.
Right. Getting a view then, from you, Gaurav, on what the outlook is, particularly when it comes to the two-wheeler segment, because we did see that sales were impacted by the subsidy cut. But given that it's in a fairly nascent stage in terms of what the industry is, do you think that the subsidy push is necessary for industry growth?
Unfortunately, we do not cover the two-wheeler segment, and I can only speak about the car market or the light vehicle market. But yes, overall market, if you see the two-wheeler adoption, we expect that the adoption speed will be very high as compared to the LV market.
Let me get you in, morning, and give us a sense as to how you're looking at these two big IPOs that are lined up within the auto space. What is the chit chat surrounding it? What's the excitement or the buzz?
Yeah, well, I think clearly, Ola, one thing it does have is scale. We've seen that it's kind of really dominated the EV two-wheeler space purely by, the kind of really aggressive, I think it's been one of the most aggressive companies moving very, very fast. But I think right now my concern is, it's buying market share. I think it's still very difficult to make money in EVs, especially two-wheelers, very dependent on subsidies. I think also the legacy players are playing a bit of a wait and watch game. It's not that they can't get the technology, and in the non-EV bits, they probably know the game better than anyone else, especially TVS, Bajaj. But I think what Ola clearly has is some momentum, and I think with the IPO, it's really got the power of cash, actually. That's what it has right now. I don't see it as a technology company, the way, let's say, a Tesla is. And, this company has been likened to Tesla in many ways, a two-wheeler, the Tesla two-wheeler. It is just right now buying whatever technology it has. I don't think it has the right leadership or manpower. So these are big issues which I foresee, going forward. I think Hyundai for me is going to be a very formidable competitor, especially for Maruti, which is the market leader right now. Can it challenge Maruti in market leadership? I think maybe not, because it's still not going to be present in all segments of the market, especially at the lower end of the market. And though that is shrinking, it's still a very important part of the market for the overall volumes and market share. But I think what Hyundai has, it will bring in a lot of technology. It has got everything. It's got, from internal combustion to hybrids to EVs. In fact, some of their EVs are the best in the world. But I think the challenge for Hyundai will be to match Maruti's cost competitiveness, which right now is really a benchmark which few manufacturers can, kind of get to.
Almost, I look at two companies which are going public, and they're two extreme ends. Hyundai is like a global, well-recognized brand, formidable in terms of market share, great in terms of consumer connect. Ola, really a new kid on the block, big on aspiration, strong on promise, but still has to become a very well-established player in today's disruptive two-wheeler market. So I'm really surprised that two managements, different ends of the spectrum, and they both are planning to go public at the same time.
Well, I think, for obviously, going to the markets to raise money, I guess, that's what it is. But I think, again, coming back to Ola, I think in a way the timing is right, because if you see their market share, they've just been increasing it. It's not been, earlier that was 1 month they were on top and next month they were not. They really are kind of, a very dominant force right now. That's a strong momentum to have behind them. I think the challenge will be to the economics of it, because right now, whatever people say, batteries are expensive. Even once they get localized, there are going to still be raw material challenges on this going forward. It's still a very tricky business, lithium. And I think, we don't control that supply chain the way we do in ICE. And again, it is so contingent on government subsidies. Right now, the GST is 5%. The only way it can go typically is up, because, I can't imagine it coming down at all. And, I think at some point that it is going to be rolled back when the penetration increases. And we've seen this in other markets as well. The minute subsidies are withdrawn, the demand kind of tanks or just flattens out. So I think, I would still think it's a big wait and watch, with as far as Ola goes, as far as, let's say long-term viability is. As far as Hyundai goes, you may say it's a global company, but it's one company that is very, very Indian in the way it thinks. Don't forget, it's been in India now for over almost 30 years, coming up to 30 years. They understand the Indian customer extremely well. And I think today, the resource you need to invest in multiple powertrains, I think, you have to get external funds to do that. I mean, it's just a common trend right now. And because you have to still invest in ICE. ICE is not going to go away, whatever people think. In fact, we've seen that EV sales globally have flattened out. Hybrids are coming back. There's this whole talk of hybrids as well. With or without government subsidies, there is a case for, consumers shifting to hybrids. There's big investment in that technology. And of course, there's the EV technology. So you've got multiple technologies all together in this in this transition phase, which no one knows how long it's going to be. Yes, one assumes that it's all going to be electric at some point in time, but when that will happen, I think it's still going to be at least another 2 decades in India.
Gaurav, just to get in a sense from you as to how you would react to that with respect to ICE versus EV, given that there is a pretty hefty product pipeline for EVs when it comes to Hyundai as compared to Maruti. What's your outlook?
No, I totally agree with Hormazd. I think Hormazd had just mentioned that ICE are not going to go anywhere. So there will be a continuous investment in EVs. The fresh investments are coming in EVs. What we are currently analyzing is that we are experiencing there is extension of ICE vehicles everywhere. So end of production, end of life cycle is getting extended by at least 3 to 4 years for every car maker or for every product. So ICE is going to be there, and I think that's a story for the suppliers also, because there are multiple auto suppliers, those who were worried about the early adoption of the EVs in the Indian market or in the global market. And I think it is going to stay there till the time we have a very clear roadmap on the regulations, we have a very clear roadmap on the taxation policies specifically towards the geopolitical issues. I think ICE is going to stay for a while in the global market and also in the Indian market.
I'm just going to get closing comment, and maybe I would request everybody to react. In next 10 years, can ICE become bigger than, essentially EV become bigger than ICE? Who wants to take this question?
So I take this question because we usually in the business of forecasting, right? So I don't think that ICE is going to become a bigger than the EVs by 2030-34. But by 2035 things can change, and post 2035 things can change if we remain intact with the EU Fit for 55 2035 implementation. I think things can change post 2035.
Question to you then, and then we'll wrap. We tend to compare India and China, perhaps at least when it comes to the large trends. And the trend in China, Hormozd, is that 30% of the total cars which are sold in China are electric. In India, the number is not even 5. In India, can that number move from 5 to 10 or 10 to 5 to 15 in 5, 7, 10 years?
Yeah, I think, looking at just the two-wheeler, the passenger car vehicle is about 2.3%. So it's not even 5 if you take just cars. I personally feel, at least, speaking on the four-wheelers, which I'm more focused on, I don't see it being more than 10% by 2030. So, I think talk of it being 2030, I think that's too far. It's too much of a long shot. I think at best we'll get into double digits by the end of the decade. A lot of challenges on EV still. Charging infrastructure is not going to be sorted out overnight. I mean, something like CNG after 25, 30 years, even that's not sorted. So to expect, charging infra on EVs to be sorted and be as prevalent as, let's say, if you're refueling an ICE vehicle, I don't think that's going to happen. So going to be a lot of bottlenecks. And I think one big ticking time bomb for EVs is the resale value, which I think is going to drop at some point when these cars come into the pre-owned market. Right now, everyone's hanging on to the EVs. They're still very new, not even 5 years old. This is a new game. So I think the resale value is going to be a big issue. And that is especially for what we call the early majority, the early adopters. They are the ones who, have bought into the, let's say, EV story. But the second lot, they're a lot more skeptical. They're worried about battery life, resale value, all that sort of thing before making an investment in EV. And I think resale value is going to be one huge challenge going forward.
Okay. Saik, final question. The EV bhakts or the proponents are of the view that what has happened in China will happen in India, which is that ICE will go down, EV will go up, and the number could be in mid-teens by next 5 to 10 years.
See, I think we'll have to go segment-wise as far as EV is concerned. If we look at EV segment today, for example, three-wheeler segment. Three-wheeler, we have already seen the adoption is more than 50%. We personally believe that in two-wheeler segment, the adoption would be at a much faster pace than in passenger vehicle, because passenger vehicle you still have the range anxiety and the the overall development or the infrastructure is still not in place. Whatever infrastructure we've had, it's still defunct. It's most of the EV chargers are not being used, or they're not in uh, running condition, I should say. So it's a challenge, and as you had rightly said, government policies will also make a major impact on this, because see, our country is still in a developing stage. Our consumers are still very price sensitive, and we have seen certain state governments wherein the registration discounts on EVs, when they have withdrawn those discounts, we've seen sales drastically dropping in those states. So it all depends on the government subsidies and overall policies from the government.
All right, gentlemen, there you have it. The big IPOs, lots of disruption within the auto space, and it's been a pleasure getting your angles and your insights on the same. Thank you all so much for joining in. All right.